I'll come on. All right.
Well, I mean, I can't invite you because, like I said, there's no Google Plus anymore.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I just have you on speakerphone, old school, because
Oh, okay.
there's nobody that I can invite.
Right. You have Zoom? You don't have Zoom yet?
I have Zoom, but I've never used it as a host. I'll have to figure that out later. It's just easier this way for me right now because I used to use Google Hangouts, and then I had a friends list from Google Plus. Anyway, we're live. This is Steampunk Star Raisin of AmberStreet.com, and I'm here on the phone with Daniel from Daniel Star Trek. And Daniel, you wanted to talk about a few things. What did you want to talk? What was on the top of your list of what you wanted to talk about today?
Hi, this is Daniel's Hot Topics. It's Sunday, May 10th, 2020. I just wanted to talk about, like so much Star Wars news, right? There's so much Star Wars news. Apparently, Tamura Morrison is coming back as Boba Fett and Captain Rex, reportedly.
Well, I heard a rumor that Rey was going to come back. Rey was going to get pregnant and lay an egg, and she was going to give birth to Jar Jar Binks' baby.
Yeah, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? That'd be funny. She just lays an egg and
the Mary Sue that laid the golden egg.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm here in Los Angeles.
I don't know if we'll see her again.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm here in Los Angeles. Actually, more specifically, North Hollywood. And where are you, Daniel? What city?
I'm in Bellwood, Canada.
Okay, in Ontario, correct?
Ontario. Yep.
Awesome. So there's a rumor, I guess. I mean, you sent me a video link where they were talking about George Lucas possibly returning to do another sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But it's a rumor. It's unsubstantiated. I mean, just because somebody talks about it on YouTube doesn't necessarily make it true. But
it's a cool possibility, I mean, I've been hearing it like on multiple channels, and like I've been reading it. Oh, it's like this could happen, and I mean, it's really interesting to speculate if they're going to do it because, like, think of the sequel trilogy.
We got one live audience member. Thank you, live audience member. Most of the time, people, when I do my live streams, there's hardly anybody watching live, and usually they would end up watching the recording later. But I've been needing to do this for a while. I haven't uploaded a video to YouTube since like February. But go ahead, Daniel.
I think we can agree the sequel trilogy was bad. It was bad.
It was pretty darn bad. You got a lot of younger fans now who are actually, giving credit to the prequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy was really pretty good. I mean, come on, for all the fans that were like emo and like sicko fans, like, oh, it's only going to be original trilogy. That's the only thing that's good. That's just simply not true. I mean, I'll take the Phantom Menace. Yeah, Jar Jar Binks was a little bit annoying, but sometimes he was funny. But, Darth Maul was awesome. Ian McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi was awesome. The same thing in Episode 2. Hayden Christensen was not that bad. He was actually pretty good as Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith, which is Revenge of the Sith's like my second favorite movie. But I remember when I went, like, God, it's been almost 5 years ago. 5 years ago now, went to Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, California, and I interviewed a girl who told me that Revenge of the Sith was her favorite movie of all time, Star Wars. And I met people who their favorite Star Wars was Clone Wars because that's all they had seen of Star Wars, and they were still a big fan, and they were going to Star Wars Celebration. So the The prequels are actually pretty good. Yeah, they have their flaws. You know, hardly any movie is perfect, but the sequel trilogy was just downright awful because of the way they handled Luke Skywalker, the way that Mary Sue Ray is just perfect at everything. She's good at everything. She doesn't really have to try that hard. She doesn't have to train in the Force. She's just super powerful, able to kick ass no matter what. Uh, she comes from she's a Palpatine, but now she claims she's a Skywalker, which just sounds really contrived and silly. And I couldn't stand Kylo Ren. He's just in the beginning he was kind of cool in The Force Awakens, but then the more you get to know him, the more he just seems like an emo bitch villain. You know, he's not that good as a villain. I mean, and then he like kisses Rey, and then that's his redemption. I mean, he killed Han Solo in front of Rey, and she was friends with Han Solo, so I just don't think it's that easy of a redemption. And then there was no explanation of why Palpatine had come back to life. It kind of, I mean, the Force Awakens started out pretty good. I mean, it had some flaws. It was kind of repetitive of A New Hope, but you know, it had potential because they introduced a bunch of new characters. And but then the Last Jedi happened, and that was a god awful movie. And then they backpedal in The Rise of Skywalker. They try to fix the damage they had done. And it didn't work. It contradicted The Last Jedi, and The Last Jedi was bad anyway. And it didn't work. It didn't work for me. It had cool special effects, but it didn't work. But yeah. I mean, I didn't like Rey. I didn't like Kylo Ren. There was the Emperor seemed like a cartoon comic version of himself because, like, I really like Emperor Palpatine the best when, like, in Revenge of the Sith, because he's like this scheming politician, and he's skillful, and he's very powerful, and he's evil, but he's not like over the top evil because he's still trying to put on a good show to make it seem like he's a just leader. And that one was just like he's like oh, ha, 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 and he's like shooting lightning out of his hands and destroys a million ships. It just was really, really corny. It was like something out of a bad parody, like a Star Wars parody. It just, I don't know, didn't work for me. Didn't work for me at all. Get a little bit better view of my paintings. I realized I need to tilt my webcam on my laptop up. But yeah, it didn't work for me at all. But yeah, for those of you, I think I talked about this in one of my previous videos. This is my Stan Lee autograph with a certificate of authenticity for when I met Stan Lee at Dragon Con 2010. That's a painting by my grandfather Ferner, and these are paintings that I have done. And then that's a movie prop book. No particular movie, just something that I bought at a convention. Looks really cool. But anyway, so anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to Star Wars, Daniel?
Are you excited for like the man, like a Boba Fett coming back? What's his name? Oh, I forgot his name.
If they do it right, the only complaint I have about the Mandalorian is the main villain, the Grand Moff. What's the main villain in the Mandalorian? I can't remember his name.
No, it's not Grand Moff.
I like to call him Darth Vader Light because he kind of, when he wears his Moff Gideon. He's kind of like Darth Vader Light. He's got his cape, and he sort of has a presence like Darth Vader, and he has his own lightsaber, and he has the control box or the flight suit, which makes him look more like Darth Vader, but he's kind of Darth Vader Light, and he just seems very, very incompetent as a leader. One makes you wonder how he even led a legion of stormtroopers because he pretty much lost his entire legion just to a handful of people. But I mean, it was entertaining. It was good. We shall see what happens with Darth Vader Light in season 2. I have no problem with
Yeah,
him bringing
yeah,
back
he has
Boba Fett.
he has a dark saber at the end. He has a dark saber.
I mean, Boba Fett. It's not been confirmed, but he may have appeared in episode 1 of The Mandalorian because there's in the cantina scene in the beginning where the Mandalorian goes in and he's looking for that amphibian fish guy that he's got a bounty on. And or wait, no, it wasn't in that scene. It was in a different scene. There was a different scene where he's in a cantina. Wasn't that scene? Sorry, my mistake. It was a different scene where if you freeze frame it for a split second, there's somebody that looks like exactly like Boba Fett with Boba Fett armor and everything, and then there's the bounty hunter who we don't see his face, and might be Boba Fett tracking down the Mandalorian. So that'll be interesting to see Boba Fett come back. Ahsoka Tano, I think that'll be cool too. Just as if they do it right. Hopefully they do it right. I was a little bit dismayed with Star Wars Rebels because like Ahsoka Tano disappears. They ended on a cliffhanger where she's fighting Darth Vader, and then they don't really explain what happened to her. She's just gone, and I found that to be very annoying. And they kind of did the same thing with Darth Maul too, where he's in one episode, then he's just gone, and then you don't hear about him for a long time. But then it was kind of cool that he came back for that one episode to do that final showdown with Obi-Wan Kenobi. But anything else about Star Wars that you want to talk about, Daniel?
Okay, so Tamura Morrison, the guy who played Jango Fett in 2002 Attack of the Clones, he's coming back as Boba Fett, and possibly Captain Rex as well, because Captain Rex is going to be with Ahsoka Tano, so he's going to play double part. It's going to be awesome. Do you think we're going to see Captain Rex and Boba Fett? Oh, I don't think we're going to see this fight in season 2, because I hear that they're going to be in season 2 very short, because like they wrapped up filming for The Mandalorian season 2 in March, and all of a sudden they're saying, "Oh, we're going to cast Tamura Morrison to come back as Boba Fett." Well, what is it? Have you wrapped up filming, or are you still filming? It's confusing, right?
Well, Captain Rex is my favorite character from Clone Wars, and yeah, if they bring him back and they do it right, that'd be cool. I mean, he would be aged in his 80s. He wouldn't be in his 80s. He would technically be in his 40s, but clone troopers age twice as fast, so he would be biologically as old as in his 80s. But, he's a fighter. He's a warrior. If he stays, there's a lot of 80-year-olds that stay in good shape that can still fight. Not all of them, but, a lot of them. And so, I would think that Captain Rex could, or they could make him a cyborg. But I mean, Captain Rex is without a doubt my favorite character from Clone Wars. I really like the character Captain Rex, and I like that they retconned it where he's actually got a cameo in Return of the Jedi, even though originally the character was written to be somebody else, but they retconned it.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Anything else you want to talk about with any new news or anything else you want to talk about with Star Wars? We can also talk about Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I want to say, now they're also talking about a Star Wars. Now that Clone Wars is over, they're saying that they're talking about a Star Wars Rebels spinoff. But they're going to. What kind of spinoff? They're going to set up this spinoff in. There's going to be an episode in The Mandalorian that's kind of going to be like a backdoor pilot for the spinoff. So it kind of makes you wonder, what is this spinoff going to be? Is it going to be live action or is it going to be animation? Because, if they set it up in The Mandalorian, it would be a live action, right? Probably.
I mean, I have no idea. That's my response. I have no idea.
Yeah, so that would be kind of interesting if they did that. And but anyways, we were talking about this today. Like Captain Rex, right? He's still okay. He's still okay. He was alive in Return of the Jedi, which I never thought was possible because of their accelerated aging.
Well, no. Okay, so Captain Rex existed during the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars was 20 years before A New Hope. And then what? How many years difference between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi?
Let's see.
And then 3 years.
I think it's 10.
What?
I think it's 10.
No, I didn't think it was 10 years between Return of the Jedi and A New Hope. Was it 10?
Yeah.
Was it 10 years? I think it was like 3 or 4 years, wasn't it?
Well, that's what they say. It's 10 years.
Okay, well then... Well, okay, during the Clone Wars, Captain Rex was 10 years old. Because that's, a lot of your clones were... They aged twice as fast, so he was incredibly young during the Clone Wars. He just looked... I mean, he was fully grown as an adult, because that's the way he's biologically engineered. But, a lot of your clone troopers were like 8 years old, and then they started fighting. And so if he's 10 years old, 20 years before A New Hope, so that would, by the time A New Hope, he'd be like 30. And then, let me look that up real quick, because that bothers me. I don't think it's 10. Okay, time and... Bear with me, guys. I'm going to look something up. Time difference. Time difference between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Let's see if Google will be my friend. Yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, Empire Strikes Back takes place 3 years. That's what I thought. Takes place 3. Yeah, it takes 3 years. Okay, Empire Strikes Back takes place 3 years after the Battle of Yavin. The Battle of Yavin is the final battle in A New Hope. So Empire Strikes and Return of the Jedi picks up immediately after Empire Strikes Back. It's like a continuous time stream. So that would make Captain Rex, if you want to be actual technical, so he's 10 years when he's fighting in the Clone Wars, although he's got like the body of a 20-year-old. And then by the time, so there's a 20-year difference between the Clone Wars and A New Hope. That's 23 years. So he's 33 at the time of Return of the Jedi. But he has aged like a 66-year-old, which would explain why he looks so old in Return of the Jedi. He has a small cameo, non-speaking role. And so that would make him age 66 at the time of Return of the Jedi. And if he appears in The Mandalorian's like... See, let me look that up. Time period. Years between Return of the Jedi and Mandalorian. $5 years. Okay, so, and that's the official canon. 5 years between Return of the Jedi and The Mandalorian. So that would make him 71. And, well, I mean, he wouldn't be 71. He's 33. That would make him 38. So he would have the body of the equivalent of a 76-year-old. But he could be in really good shape. He's a fighter, a warrior. He stays active. He could still be in good shape and still be a warrior, even at age 76. So biologically, he'd be age 76, but in actual physical years that he's existed, he'd be 38. So that makes sense to me that he would still be around. Now, if you get to the point of like the sequel trilogy, then I would say, yeah, that's kind of pushing it. But the sequel trilogy, let's just pretend that doesn't exist because it sucked. I mean, other than the visuals, the Sith troopers look cool. but you hardly ever saw them. But anyway, but yeah, if I ever have a guest, they will sit here in this chair right here. If I ever have a guest physically here in my studio, my artist studio, they will sit right here. Maybe one day when it's not quarantine. Oh, I meant to ask you because I haven't really talked about the quarantine since quarantine started here in LA. How's quarantine life treating you?
I guess it's okay. I mean, every day, me and my mom, we have to go out. And we have to, we go out and we tour around town. There's not almost nobody in town. All the restaurants are closed. We have to go to the drive-through. But we can still walk into stores, but you gotta keep like 5 feet away from everybody. And a lot of people wear masks.
I forget your mom's name. What's her name?
Joanne.
That's right. So how's your mom taking it? How's Joanne taking it?
She's okay. Yeah.
There's two people watching live. Welcome, folks of the internet. I rarely have one person, let alone two people, watching live. Here in North Hollywood, California, talking to Daniel of Daniel Star Trek up in Ontario, Canada. Here on the good old cell phone, because I don't have any friends anymore on Google Plus because it got deleted. And yeah, I can do live hangouts, and it's easy to do, but it's not easy to invite people into this area. I'm gonna have to learn Zoom because that's what everybody's using. That's what everybody's on the Zoom. My girlfriend uses Zoom for work because they're doing online classes and logging people into the college system online through via Zoom. Oh, we lost the person, but yeah. How long we've been going for? I had 22 minutes. I was going for a target of like 30 minutes. So anything else about like Star Wars or Star Trek you wanted to talk about? How was your Star Wars day?
Oh, pretty good. I thought it was good. It was nice. It was full of fun and yeah. I like Star Wars Day. It's too bad, it only comes around once a year. Well, there's Happy Star Wars Day, Star Wars. May the Fourth be with you, and then Happy Revenge of the Fifth. But I remember I told Joe one time, Happy Revenge of the Fifth, Joe. But there is no Revenge of the Fifth. So I kind of.
Well, I mean, technically, there is no holiday called Star Wars Day. That's just something created by marketing. So there could be a Revenge of the Fifth. Why not? Which rhymes with Revenge of the Sith. I know that for May the 4th and May the 5th, I played a lot of Fortnite. I've been really getting into that Fortnite. I can see why people get addicted to that game or why they play it a lot because it's fun. It's a creative new take on the first person shooter. I can't believe I haven't played it until now. Although I just constructed a PC or I upgraded and rebuilt a PC that's barely capable enough of playing Fortnite. I have to run it in low settings. But on the Fortnite game, during May the 4th and May the 5th, so I guess they were also honoring Revenge of the 5th. When you would find a loot crate or a treasure chest and you would open it, it would have a lightsaber. It would be like Rey's lightsaber, Kylo Ren's lightsaber, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, Mace Windu's lightsaber. And it was cool. It was like when you would pick up Mace Windu's lightsaber and you would activate it, it would not only block bullets from people shooting at you with like bullets, but it would also, you would like mimic the stance of that character. And it was pretty cool. And it was really good at destroying stuff, like destroying walls and buildings. But they're no longer dropping them anymore. It's no longer dropping on the map anymore. That was just something they did special for Star Wars Day and the day after, I guess, for Revenge of the 5th as well. But it added an interesting dynamic to the game. So I miss the lightsabers. Maybe they'll bring them back next year. But Fortnite, yeah, really, really good game because I've been skydiving before, and I like how the skydiving part where you start off, you're dropping from the sky. You drop from this hot air balloon bus thing, and you come on down, and you can deploy the parachute early and then go across the map, or you can deploy the parachute late and cushion your fall, and then you come straight down onto one singular point, just like skydiving in real life. And I found that the weapons were fairly realistic. Although there is some things that are kind of crazy, like they got different special sci-fi weapons, but it's fun. It's a good mix of realism and sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
And you basically are playing on a map with like 100 people, and I usually play solo because I don't have any friends on Fortnite that I play with, so I can't do squads. It would be cool if I could get friends on Fortnite and do squads, but I take it you've never played Fortnite because you don't have a computer fast enough capable of playing Fortnite, correct?
Well, I think I do. Yeah, it's a pretty nice computer.
Is it new?
I just don't know how to do it. I just don't know how to do it.
Is it a new computer?
Yeah.
What brand is it?
Well, wait a second. Well, it's an HP. Wait a second. Hold on. No, well, it pretty much is brand new, but no, come to think of it, no, I got that. I was bought that back in 2011, so it's not new.
Yeah, it depends on the specs. I mean, I'm running a Dell Precision T3500 workstation server, and you can tell because it's got chafe marks that it was in a server rack. You could tell because of the scratching on the case. I got a really good deal on used, and if as long as you have like a quad core processor and 8 gigs of RAM, I think you can even run it on Intel graphics, integrated graphics, as long as you turn the settings way down. I mean, I have a dedicated GPU, but it's only like 1 gigabyte of video RAM. But I have 16 gigabytes of system RAM, which helps, and a quad core processor with hyperthreading. The game does take advantage of hyperthreading. Anyway, which is virtual cores. It's hyperthreading is programming code that's built into this Intel CPUs. But yeah, you can play on a computer. Like I'm playing on a computer that's 10 years old, but it's been slightly upgraded. Like I'm running 2 hard drives in a RAID. I don't have the money to upgrade it to an SSD, so I'm running the 2 hard drives in a RAID. It's running at 200 megabits per second, so it runs kind of like a slow SSD. It's not as good as an SSD, but it's good enough for now, and can do basic gaming. I mean, I'm not going to be able to play like Call of Duty on there, but I can play Fortnite. I can play Company of Heroes 2. I can play Company of Heroes 1. I can play Counter Strike. I can play Team Fortress 2. But I like Fortnite. It's a lot better than Team Fortress 2. I used to love playing Team Fortress 2 a lot, but Fortnite, pretty good. I like, in Fortnite, I like to mow people over with a helicopter. Because a lot of times people, you're like, you want to grab a helicopter because you got the eye of the storm and it's closing in. And it's a clever way. Because often I used to remember when I used to play like Enemy at the Gates, if anybody remembers that game. The problem is the map was large and people would hide, and it would sometimes take 2 hours to kill everybody. Or, well, the object was to get to the end of the game, but sometimes, you had to like escort a tank and get it to the objective. So there was one side fighting offensive and one side playing defensive. But the problem was because the map was so big, it sometimes would take an hour just to finish a single game. In Fortnite, that's not the case because even though you have a very large like island continent thing that you skydive down on, they have what's called the Eye of the Storm. They have the storm, and if you stay outside of the Eye of the Storm, you get electrocuted and you slowly die. But so you're forced to go inward move further and further more inland to stay out of the eye of the storm. And eventually, by the end of the game, you're forced to confront the other players. So in the beginning, usually I hide and I try to find some good weapons to stock up on ammunition and medical supplies. But then at the end of the game, I make sure that I'm really well prepared. And having a helicopter gives you an edge because you're faster, more mobile. Now you can't shoot at people from a helicopter because you're flying it, you're piloting the helicopter. But you can go down, ride really really low, and you can mow people down. I've killed people on Fortnite with a helicopter. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun smashing people with a helicopter. Like I'd come down like 2 or 3 feet off the ground and chop them with my the helicopter blades, and it actually does damage. Or sometimes like I'd have somebody trying to snipe me from the top of a building, and I'd come down and I'd knock them off the building because you can actually die from falling. If you fall too far, you will die. You'll take damage and die. So, um, really, really fun. But yeah, I was really surprised. They must have made a deal with Disney to include lightsabers in the game, but they don't. They don't since May the 6th. They no longer include lightsabers with Fortnite. It was only something they did for May the 4th and May the 5th. You know, for Star Wars Day and Revenge of the Sith Day or Revenge of the Fifth Day. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, some people say, "Oh, that's not a real day," but then technically, Star Wars is not a real official holiday either. So, go figure. Go figure. But anyway, in the words of Peter Steele, Christian woman, I love you to death. Anyway, my girlfriend will get that joke if she's watching. But I think we're going to wrap this up because it's 32 minutes. I don't want it to be too long and drawn out and boring. But thank you, Daniel. You you have a nice day, and I will see you 25 billion years. I will.